I'm just kidding, guys. I'm not traveling today. I was just memeing. Who else is part of the meme squad today? Wow. What's up, guys? Wait. What's up, my duders? How is life? I sounded like the word sweep now.
People say, I feel like people sweep for Hamas by saying, what do you expect, right? But the truth is that people use
sweep
South
for
Africa
Hamas.
as...
What are you saying? Sweep? Like, he's using T terminology. When he's talking about political commentary, an issue, a real issue, he says sweep? People sweep for Hamas? First of all, sweep. This is like the new terminology from drama slop tubers that I've been hearing a lot. And as soon as I hear it, immediately I think to myself, oh, this person is not a very serious person, doesn't care about politics at all, and simply cares about the drama of it all. Trump is so petty, even though foreign policy still moves in whichever direction, regardless of what Trump's statements are. And we've seen that with the way he's communicated with Israel, right? About Israel saying, you can do whatever you want, go kill, we're going to ethnically cleanse Gaza or whatever. And then Steve Witkoff will come and play the role of cleanup to be like, he doesn't mean it. He just wanted our Arab partners to get more involved in this deal or whatever the fuck, right? They'll always end up playing catch up. After the fact, they always will sweep for Donald Trump and try to fix the posture and make it seem more reasonable when it's not. But when he's talking about...
He said the word?
That's kind of what Hungary does, and it still doesn't have, it doesn't reverse the
Have we ever seen a Econo Boy before? Wow, that doesn't match the voice I was expecting. Huh.
yeah.
Yes, we have. Oh, maybe I just don't watch the Live and Learn show enough.
People accessing the labor market, right? So we've got unemployed people,
spending. Discussions. We try and welcome to the culture war debate show, I guess. Sometimes we do discussions. We try to have civil discussions, but sometimes they get heated debates. And moving forward, we are planning on having many of these shows live, pre-recorded, simply because we wanted to do it live. But we're like, how do we do a show live Saturday night? It's not really something you can do. Tomorrow night, we are going to be pre-recording the next episode of The Culture War live with the studio audience, and we're allowing our audience members to come up and join the debate. So moving forward, this is our pilot. We're going to figure out how we do it. So it's going to be chaotic, but don't worry. Alex Stein will be joining us to make sure that if it is chaotic, we can blame him. It's going to be fun. But today, we're going to be talking about overspending, government bloat, welfare, and these policies that will bankrupt or destroy the United States. And I got a couple gentlemen with me. Sir, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, hi. Great to be back. My name's Connor. I'm a science fiction, political, and philosophy nerd, Marine Corps and law enforcement veteran. I think the easiest way...
Wait, you know this guy is fucking huge, right? He's 6'5". I don't know why, but when I saw him in real life, I was like, Jesus Christ, a monster.
I identify my politics as a never Trump Republican. Funnily enough, I was on this stream a few weeks, maybe a month ago or so, arguing that we needed a state and statism and welfare and all that kind of stuff. But I think that the left can go way too far with this stuff, and you can effectively bankrupt or destroy a society if you're not careful. So that's what I'll be arguing today.
Right on. Sir, who are you?
Hey everyone, go buy Econoboy on YouTube and all the things. I have a Substack, econoboy.substack.com. I do a show with Pisco, actually a soon-to-be reoccurring guest on the Timcast. And so I'm here to defend the welfare state and government spending. And, my preview for my audience was I never miss a chance to defend big government. So that's why.
What is Mario pissing? Why do I feel like there's always a new emote in chat every day? The fuck?
I'm here. Here's my question for you. Are you a small government guy?
Relatively speaking, but there's, of course, essential functions for the government that we should be performing, and that's where I get into trouble and fight with libertarians.
It's been here for so fucking long.
So this is interesting because you're like a medium government guy.
I'm a medium government guy.
Versus a big government guy.
Exactly.
Yeah, Connor said that he's like, I'm looking forward to this opportunity to, shift this conversation a little bit.
Yeah, because no offense to him, but I checked out the comments underneath my thing, and they're like, oh.
Is Connor center right? Maybe, I think.
This statist, leftist, communist piece of garbage. He's arguing for indefinite spending. What an a-hole. And then it's like, guys, no, I do have reasonable positions. Chill out.
I must admit, too, when people call me a statist, because I say things like, I'm okay with public expenses for roads.
Yeah.
And then they're like, no, private tolls. But
that's socialism.
Let's start with the biggest government ever. What does that mean to you, big government and spending? Do you mean like deficit spending and unlimited budgets or what?
Yeah, I joke about big government, obviously. I mean, I think that in principle, government should be as small as possible. I mean, obviously, you shouldn't have more government than you think you might need. But obviously, it's a debate about, what the institution should really look like and how expansive they should be. I happen to believe in a pretty big welfare state. I think that part of the conceptual reason why we would always need a welfare state, essentially no matter what, is that one of the reasons why the bottom 20% are the bottom 20%, they're poor, is because they're overwhelmingly
That's why. That's it. Because they're poor. Thank you.
Just don't work or they have trouble accessing the labor market, right? So we've got unemployed people, caregivers, elderly people, children, disabled people, students, right? And so fundamentally, in a market capitalist system, whether you like it or don't like it, there's not really a clean way, clearly, from across history, for essentially the market to get income to these people. And as well, since these people are unequally distributed, right? So if we were to imagine the same, two people, right? Identical twins, one makes 70 grand, the other makes 70 grand, they live in the same city. One of them lives completely alone, just in a studio apartment, and then the other one has like a child and a disabled spouse. Well, even though they have the same income, the person who has a child and a disabled spouse, which, arguably is through no fault of their own, or at the very least we might say that children and people with disabilities should be taken care of, that person's going to be much poorer unless we provide disability benefits, child allowances, things like that.
Well, let me ask you, or why not just let them die?
Well, I mean, of course, that is always
Fabian.
Yeah, that is an intuition some people might have. I mean, I happen to, I believe in a state, I believe in having a government, I believe in some senses collective responsibilities, communitarianism and things like that. And so
you're a communist.
yeah, of course. No,
I am kidding.
No, I believe in community, right? And I think that part of believing in community is having these sort of democratic procedures for voting for taxes and voting for institutions that distribute money to these people. And obviously, the proof is in the pudding, right? When you have a welfare state that's well functioning, children aren't in poverty, the elderly aren't in poverty, people with disabilities aren't in poverty. The poverty rate in general just completely flatlines when you have a well functioning welfare state. And that's not what necessarily the U.S. has, but I think that we should tend towards that direction, not strip away all these benefits.
But my argumentation effectively is going to be that we have this schism in the United States of America, politically, culturally, et cetera, et cetera. Some may call it a civil war at times. But the issue is that in order for a welfare state to work, you need fiscal conservative and social conservative instincts. So one of the things that I see most often criticized about the welfare state, about Scandinavia, about the Pacific Northwest, about California, is perverse incentive systems where you effectively get people who are, I'm just going to say it, parasitic, dysgenic, and those might be like words that are loaded where it's like, oh, you're a fascist or whatever. But when
you could say free rider problem. Learn the econ terms, and then you don't sound as much like an asshole.
You have generation after generation after generation that are on social benefit programs. They're not getting better. They're not integrated into the economy. They're taking wealth that could be used for more productive measures, et cetera, et cetera. We have to look at that, and we have to look at that as a systemic failure. And so that's where I don't begrudge fiscal conservatives who say we've spent billions or trillions of dollars on these programs, and the stats have stayed almost the same, or social conservatives who are saying that we are incentivizing degenerate behavior.
So how do we have a system that protects the weak from just being tossed out without creating generational dependencies?
Bullying.
Bullying.
Yeah, so this is it's going to be mostly a cultural argument because I think that people can already identify that we're arguing about how big should the state be and what services should it provide. I have very specific thoughts on that. But the thing is what I get frustrated with the left, with liberals, with progressives, with leftists is that they don't seem to have any taste for saying, hey, no, you're actually screwing up. Hard drug use is terrible. Being a single parent, while not always your fault, is sometimes your fault. And here's all the pro-social behaviors that you should be taking part in, and then we should prioritize those as a society. And obviously we're having a sensible conversation between sensible people, but as soon as we leave this room, we're kind of bombarded with messaging that says, oh, this is cis heteropatriarchal. This is right-wing. This is the gateway to fascism. When realistically, most people kind of have these social incentive structures in their lives, and they see the benefits and the downsides.
Yeah. I'm not so sure you guys are going to disagree on a lot of these, right? You don't want.
I can get pretty spicy pretty quick.
But you don't want dependent generations that aren't actually contributing, do you?
Well, it's an empirical question, right? So I think that where Connor is mistaken, and I think where a lot of people are mistaken on this, is that if we were to look at people who are born poor, right? So people born in kind of the bottom 20th percentile of people, this is a pretty poor group of people. I mean, they consume. It's about, last time I checked the data, there's about 1.6 people on average, obviously, in these households.
Okay, I don't have anything fun is happening here. I saw that Brianna did an interview in Israel. Is this as unhinged as I think it'll be?
And this week, on the quad, guest co-host Brianna Wu, first time in Israel, and our friend Rachel Feldman is back all the way from Vermont, and we will be talking about the cultural decline of America. or just Coachella. Only on JNS, only on the Quad.
JNS, is that like the June? Fuck, I'm having an online white person moment. What's another word that starts with N besides that one? The Jew Nation stream. That's what this is. Oh, network. Oh, the Jew news station.
And welcome back, everybody, to the Quad after the Pesach holidays, Easter holidays. And today we have a very special show with two guest co-hosts. First of all, my wonderful co-host, Shoshana Keats-Jaskal, who is the founder of Chochmat Nashim, Elevating Orthodox Women's Voices.
I love Chochmat Nashim.
And pushing away discrimination in the Orthodox community. And Rachel Feldman, who's been here before. She's an activist and the founder of the Shalom Coalition of Vermont. And our star co-host today, Brianna Wu, for the first time in Israel. She is a tech advocate, run for Congress, and today the executive director of Rebellion Pact, trying to put in more progressive voices in American politics. Brianna, welcome.
It's such a pleasure. I'm so glad we could find time for this.
I'm glad you found time for this because I know you have a really jam-packed schedule.
I do.
And we're so blessed that you came on the Quad. It's so important.
Schedule?
I love y'all. You know, it's such a good show. Emily is amazing. You're amazing.
Thank you.
Big professional honor for me.
Thank you.
Yes.
But, you know, I want to ask you the first question.
Sure.
You're the executive director of a PAC trying to push in progressive voices.
Yes.
Which are a little bit in conflict
with Israel.
With your voice right now.
Uh-oh.
So maybe, Brianna, unpack for us and we can have a conversation of what's actually...
Israel are the true progressives. We're actually super aligned because Arabs hate the gays and Jews love gays.
Going on. When was your aha moment? Then your own movement has kind of abandoned its own values.
So it's really difficult, right? I got into progressive politics because of certain policies that I believe in. Things like universal health care, you know, being more thoughtful about the United States and our national security strategy. There are certain policies like women's rights.
Yeah.
I really, really strongly believe in. And I've literally...
Wait, real quick. I can't do anything with Foundries, basically, when it comes to my legendary shit, right? Not with Or, at least.
I really put 11 years of my life into this progressive movement. What I've unfortunately seen over the last 11 years is us taking this playbook, which is kind of wallowing in grievances, moralizing everything in sight, and more recently,
not
this
the moralizing
explosion of anti-Semitism that has happened in the left, which I want to be very clear. I think this is being funded by people outside of the United States to put operatives in the Democratic Party that are advocating these points of views.
What?
So I'm just going to be honest with you. It is a crisis of conscience for me. It is tremendously stressful because I do think some of these policies are correct, but you look at the people actually advocating these things, I don't think there's a future where we win anything.
Damn.
Well, what was your aha moment before or after October 7th?
After October 7th.
What happened? When was that moment?
So, you know, the thing that really, really woke me up is I'm watching.
Temple just called you out.
And you'd want to have these kind of requirements probably for every insurance, which is obviously cost sharing, or you have public systems, Medicare, Medicaid, CHIP, the VA, all that stuff, right? And so pretty much no matter what, we have this sort of communitarian, like we're subsidizing from the healthy to the sick. And so we have a generic problem with people being obese, right? And so if that's the case, then you'd want to have these kind of requirements probably for everyone, right? You want to have, you want to tax on healthy foods, and you want to
we're taxes on healthy people.
But this is where people get pissed, though. Okay, so for instance, talk to a libertarian guy named Lactoid. Talk to Fabian Liberty or whatever.
Yeah.
Is if you're doing all of the right things, if you're working, taking care of your family, taking care of your community, and paying your taxes, people should leave you the hell alone.
But that's what insurance is, though. Insurance is like inherently like when you need it.
Okay.
So I want to just be open with you and say before October 7th, I had supported Israel generally.
Yeah.
Like I grew up, heard about the Second Intifada, watched the peace process fall apart. I supported Israel, but I'd never done a deep dive into your politics.
But why would you? You have enough on your plate.
Right.
Not everybody has to be obsessed with Israel.
But there's this progressive storyline going on about Palestine, which I just picked up from everyone.
God, fuck. I don't know if maybe I'm just lucky in terms of my temperament, my disposition or whatever. When people patronize me like this, God, it just makes me want to fight with them so much. That one dude, the Elon guy, he was so mad on the drive up to, I don't even know what city that was. It was really far to the north. Obviously, my position is going to be very against the crazy Palestinians or whatever. And it was after that, and then seeing a bunch of other people, recognize me. The guy's like, wait, you should come on my podcast. We'll talk about Israel. And he was definitely expecting me to do like an hour glaze fest. And I could tell going in. I think I warned him before. I was like, I don't just totally buy the pro-Zionist stuff, right? And he was like, no, it's good. I appreciate your nuance. But I don't think I don't know, man. But there was no shot I was ever going on that show to just do a glaze fest. Oh, God, it triggers the fuck out of me. But
everyone else, there's this progressive storyline going on about Palestine, which I just picked up from everyone else. Free Palestine, they're pressed. Israel's doing X, Y, Z. You know the song.
We know the drill.
So there's a woman that I went to.
When was this quad episode? I think a week ago. 10 days ago, maybe 2 weeks ago.
Feminist conference with a good friend of mine, someone that I considered was a good friend. We'd been on stage together many times advocating about women's sexual violence, which is a real issue. And I saw her denying the sexual violence of October 7th publicly on social media. So I call her up and I'm like, can you square this for me? Like, how do you square this sexual violence that's going on with advocating the sexual violence? And instantly, this friend of like a decade, we're screaming at each other.
Wow. Wow.
Wow.
And it was the moment that I went like, okay, I'm undereducated on this topic. I have a responsibility to really sit down and start digging through the history here. And everyone says the history is very complicated. I think it's actually simple. Yeah, you've had 6 wars and 6 major conflicts since 1948.
6 wars and 6 major conflicts. Is that all, like, wars and conflicts is 6? Since 48. Okay.
Israel has been on the defensive every single time.
Absolutely.
You're trying to save yourselves.
Yeah.
And, it's just this, and a wider point than this that I really want to hit is, after October 7th, I really started to think about what my life would be like if the Jews that I knew in America had not been there for me. Like when I was the first student to transition at the University of Mississippi, there's a Jewish administrator that really went to bat for me and helped me out there. The surgeon that gave me the health care that literally saved my life, Dr. Jeffrey Spiegel in the United States, he has trained like half of the people in the United States that work in this specialty. And I started thinking through that and realized how much Jews in America had given me, and I really felt a responsibility to speak up and to stand with y'all right back. So.
Wow. Well, that's amazing. And that's, that's the saddest thing, that Jews have always been in the forefront of all the social justice causes. Yeah. And then when it was our turn to get support.
Astonishing.
And I think it's gone 2 ways. Some Jews have woken up and gone, oh my God,
right.
Who's standing with me?
Right.
And other Jews have gone, well, I'm still gonna hate on my own people because that's still the way I'm gonna be accepted.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's
disgusting.
So it's really sad because you've been given a choice. You're either with human rights or you are against human rights.
Right.
Even though we're the ones with the beacon of human rights in this area, in this region, and nothing else. And so thank God that there's intelligent people like you who are still...
Thank God.
Who are still not being indoctrinated or can step back and say, okay, something...
Stop saying LDS. That is unethical, and it's an unethical style of play. Anybody that talks about LDS is an unethical player, okay? You've never used a belt in your life, and you bought everything to everything, and you're just cheating. Stop.
Doesn't square up, using your words. And this brings us to what happened in the last week with Coachella.
Oh my God, oh no, not the Coachella incident.
You're bombing them from the skies. If you're not calling it a genocide, what the f*** are you calling it?
And with the kind of This like it's coming to this cultural clash of what? I mean, is it you're from Vermont? You're from the most liberal state in the country, right?
Litcock.
It's definitely up there, even though we have a Republican governor, yes.
Oh, you do?
Our legislative bodies, Senate and House, are majority Democrat, and Democrat progressive have almost been merged into one.
Wow.
And that's created a really
That's rough.
difficult situation for the Jewish community in Vermont, because so much of the community in Vermont in general is very progressive. The Jewish community, we are involved in every social justice movement because we are everything. We are black, we are white, we are LGBTQ, we are men, we are women, we are everything. And as soon as October 7th happened,
Men and women in the Jewish
all
community.
of a sudden
Jesus.
it became very clear that only the Jew
sorry, not Jesus.
was the Jew.
That's right.
And we've had one of our leading organizations, our LGBTQ organizations, Outright Vermont, force Jewish members to resign from the board. So now all the Jewish members are off that board. They allowed, actually invited the Coalition for Palestinian Liberation to lead the Pride Parade. So the Pride Parade was led with Palestinian flags.
If
My
only
God.
they could do that in Gaza.
Got him.
But to your point, it's very difficult to have a conversation about it because people just want to scream instead and get very angry.
Why are they so entrenched?
Yeah.
Shoshana,
What's going
you're
on?
somebody who's dealt with, also
Yeah.
you've dealt with,
Dealt with a lot of Jews. They're pretty hateable. So I'm just kidding.
I guess, radical views within the Jewish community, with the ultra-Orthodox, etc. How do people get so entrenched
in their ideology?
in their ideology that you can't even hear something that would normally make sense to a regularly intelligent person?
So that is something that I always say, I'm a fighter of extremes, right? Like I am a feminist, but I'm not a feminist or a this or a that. I fight extremes because all extremes are bad. And what happens is when some people go this way, other people react by going this way. And I'm just like, yo, there's this whole middle ground that is really where we all need to be. And if we don't populate and hold this middle ground, so we're just falling off the edges and everyone's getting hurt. And so I have noticed within our community, outside the community, in the world, everyone takes a stand and refuses to budge. It's like, I'm going to hold my flag no matter hell or high water.
And they double down.
They triple
double
down.
what?
They don't even make, like you said, you don't even make, all of a sudden your friend of 10 years, you're screaming at. I've never heard of such a thing. Why can't you have a conversation? I remember growing up, it didn't matter if you were Republican or Democrat. Like, you sat at the same table, you maybe didn't discuss some politics, but like, it was never like this, where I can't talk to my family, I can't go home for Thanksgiving.
Okay. We can say that as Americans. I feel like as Jews, you can't really say that. It's never been this bad. Well, there was the Holocaust. Well, actually, shit, I guess as Americans we can't either because we also had the Civil War. So never mind. Fuck.
I had to cut off members of my family. Whatever the issue is, it seems that people are just incapable of asking questions like you were doing and saying, well, maybe I need to just figure something out. Maybe I need to learn a little bit more. Maybe I need to not just hook, line, and sinker. And that's what I think we see in, like you brought up Coachella, I think that's what we see. It's like groupthink.
Yeah.
It's a cult.
Yeah.
And it's like, if you don't follow this, you're out. And people are afraid.
It's part of this progressive playbook, which is not, I got into progressivism for policy, but the modern progressive movement is about moralizing. It moralizes everything in sight. And the story they are telling is very straightforward. You are a bad person if you support Jews in Israel.
Yeah.
Because Jews are bad.
Are oppressing the poor brown Palestinians.
Of course.
Yes.
And it's they see everything through the lens of the 1964 civil rights movement.
But don't they see, but isn't that also Marxist in a way?
Of course it is.
It's crazy because this has nothing to do with civil rights.
Right.
They've co-opted
That's right.
a part of history of America and stuck it here, and it's supposed to fit in.
And I really want to stress this. This is a disinformation campaign that's being waged against the United States.
Yeah.
And
to deconstruct within itself.
To do that. There is, within the progressive movement, there is a
What is there?
dark alliance that's been formed with Islamists. And I'm not talking about normal Muslims in the United States.
No, of course
I'm talking about this theocratic project to install radical Islam, which, it is increasingly part of the Democratic Party. And I think, in my view, something that's really scary is the lack of moral backbone in the Democratic Party, which, to be clear, cannot be successful at
Okay, to be fair, I don't think I actually disagree with anything she said yet. I'm just making fun of them. I'm sorry. I'm being a contrarian right now.
polls without Jews. We just can't. Go do the math yourself. And we're unwilling to denounce this anti-Semitism, which is increasingly growing a cancer in our party and making us unelectable. So we have a choice. We can either really face up to this stuff, as the Democratic Party just got annihilated.
Dems are trying to install radical Islam. Well, no, that's actually retarded. There was like a weird reluctance. I wouldn't say install it, but this has been an issue with Dems for a while. Is they have an issue denouncing things that they probably should have an easy time denouncing, but they won't because it is part of a minority group. This is more of like a Marxist-ish problem though than like a progressive-ish problem though.
Annihilated and Trump got elected.
Yeah.
And we can make a new vision for the party, or we can keep trying to please everyone and go down this route of moralizing everything and insanity. And what is so troubling to me is I see no signs we're going to change
Well,
course.
this is what I was going to ask you. What do you think the percentages are? Is it now the majority of the Democratic Party that has been hijacked by this ideology?
No.
Where are the regular Democrats like you? And how do you do your work in rebellion, Pac?
Sure.
When you've got this crowd to deal with?
Sure. Well, Cenk Uygur is on my board. And we do not agree on this. We talk all the time and argue. I think it's productive for us to still be able to be friends, even though we disagree on Israel so strongly.
Yeah.
I think that has a lot of value, being able to continue those friendships. It's a struggle sometimes because I see him. He's had fights with Emily, and I'm like, we're on Emily's side. So, but I think that the answer is we've got to look in the Democratic Party. We've got to cut this off. We've got to move forward. We've got to wake people up. The truth is we have a very small contingent of bullies that
who make a lot of noise.
Who make a lot of noise, and they're funded. They're funded out. Look into the people, these Islamist advocates in the progressive movement.
Yeah.
Look at who's funding.
Yeah.
These are high power. These are very powerful operatives in our party.
Okay.
They're setting a narrative. We've got to be willing to push back on that.
Are you going to name names?
Ooh. They never do.
We know that Qatar is funding.
Of course.
We know that maybe allegedly the Soros gang. Whatever it is, there's a very, very
not the Soros gang,
of course,
money trail,
of course,
to a society that wants America to deconstruct. They know it's not going to happen militarily because America's too strong,
right?
And so they need to sow these divisions. They need to go into academia. They need to poison people's minds because that's the only way they're going to do it. And these people are willing fools that are.
Wait, are we against Soros on this side? Yes. Remember. For Nazis or for far-right people or for everything else, all Jews are the same, okay? All Jews are the same. They're a Jew is a Jew, period. On the Jewish side, okay, diasporoids, okay? People that are diaspora Jews that haven't returned to Israel, that just, they maintain their presence in other countries, these are like, it's not good. You should go back to Israel. You have to go back to Israel. You got to be part of the Holy Land. You need to repopulate. You need to do all this shit. Especially because so many of the Jews that are not part of Israel, that haven't gone home, haven't made Aliyah, so many of them are progressive, which doesn't really align. Like I would say, Jews are progressive for like the Middle East, but they're not like progressives in the American sense at all.
Going along with it, but why is this Jew hatred still so? It's just I think that most American Jews that I know are shocked. I'm European.
Yeah.
So I'm not shocked by anti-Semitism. There's always
around every corner.
No, there was always kind of a layer. But my American friends are shocked.
Yes.
Because being American and being Jewish was never a contradiction. There was never tension.
Right.
In Europe, there was always a bit of tension.
Right.
And they woke up one day and they're like, damn, what happened?
The golden diaspora disappeared.
The golden diaspora disappeared. And you know where else that happened? Germany in the 1930s, where the Jews were similarly comfortable and integrated and assimilated and everything.
But it wasn't just being comfortable. As an American, it was called the Golden Medina, not just because it was, an opportunity to rebuild yourself, but because religious freedom was built into America. So you have to remember, America was built on the concept of religious freedom, and everyone had their God.
She said it.
And for Jews, that's amazing, right? Like, okay, I can worship my God, I can be who I am, and that's part of the American dream. Yeah. So it is shocking for Americans to find anti-Semitism around every corner, and not the anti-Semitism that they know. It's not the Ku Klux.
Most American Jews are progressive, and most Jews live in America. Do you mean Israelis aren't progressive? Wait, isn't that what I said? Sorry, Also, most Jews live in. I think most Jews live in Israel. I think the world population of Jews is supposed to be about. It's supposed to be about 15-ish million, and I think 7 million of them live in Israel. Am I wrong on my numbers there?
Klan, okay, we know about them, right? Like, it's all of a sudden this progressive concept of well, we're anti-Zionist, but not anti-Semitism.
The mosques.
Or, well, you know, and it's like being hidden. And then it's also, like you said, taking the values that you have always believed in and stood for and twisting them and saying, if you want to take these values.
10 in Israel? I'm pretty sure it's only 7, right?
You have to be free Palestine over here. You cannot be here.
Intersectionality.
I should say here on the left.
Yeah. Intersectionality?
Yeah, because it's the whole concept is anyone who's oppressed anywhere in any way is all the same. And
the population of Israel might be 9 million, but 2 million of those are Arabs, Palestinians. I'm pretty sure.
In order to free anyone, anywhere, who's any way oppressed, according to my definitions of oppressed, of course, then you have to buy that whole package. Right. And Jews can't buy that whole package because Jews are the oppressors in that package. So we are left out.
Yeah.
Yep. It has been a long-running linguistic war and ideological war that's been going on for 20 plus years, starting in academia, so that now the people who are our leaders in politics, in law, in education, in medicine,
are all progressives.
They have all received this indoctrination and training, and it is now showing up in curricula in our K through 12 schools. But because in America, as you said, Shoshana, we were trained very much to recognize, like, well, the German shalom, that's anti-Semitism.
Right.
Someone gives a Heil Hitler, a swastika, that's anti-Semitism.
The German shalom? I'm sorry.
But anti-Semitism has emerged very strongly on the left. And because of...
Do Muslims have something similar to Zionism? It depends on who you ask. Yeah, it's called Muslims believe they should have a country of their own, and they should be able to kick out everybody that's not Muslim. That country is called the planet Earth.
This baked-in ideology, we now have about 20 years worth of people who all believe that Israel is a white colonial oppressor state, that there is an occupation, and have been eating up a narrative that is not true, and all without ever coming...
It's the Ummah. I think, doesn't Ummah refer to all humans that are part of Islam? If you're part of the Ummah, that's like part of the Muslim congregation? Or am I making that up? I don't remember.
To this region of the world, and
then there's another word for non-Ummahs. I don't know, the non-Muslims. I don't know.
Without ever coming to this region of the world, and not doing the research that, Brianna, I'm so grateful that you do and that others do, because it does involve looking into. But people don't want to do
more than that, because it's really important to recognize exactly how many angles this is coming from. It's not just that they...
Angles? Really? How many people are we bringing into this conversation now?
They're into the narrative of Israel being the oppressor and the white, It's also that we can't be victims in any way, meaning we cannot be suffering.
Exactly.
We cannot be suffering at the same time. So while Palestinians are given, well, if I was a Palestinian, I would be a terrorist. How many people have said that? Or if I completely understand why they lost it on October 7th. But nobody says that about Jews. I understand why the Jews lost it because of what they went through. That doesn't exist. And so you have a real double standard when it comes to...
Wait, why don't we have a she's right emote? We only have a he's right emote.
Jewish people and their responses, their reactions, the way they're allowed to react to their trauma versus Palestinians and how they're allowed to react to their trauma. We don't even get trauma. We are, here you're crying tears again. It's like, I feel like it's a whack-a-mole situation where we are constantly defending ourselves against...
A bit sad to see someone like Destiny approach it from this angle. What? Bro, what is he talking about? Non-Muslims trying to understand Islam moment. Yeah, literally. A bit sad to see someone like Destiny approach it from this angle. Sorry, my bad. That was a little thing called a joke. Muslims globally are not trying to form a global caliphate at the moment, okay? My bad. Let me I thought that me laughing loudly was an indication that I was being slightly sarcastic, but I'm sorry, my dude. There you go. Please don't behead me if I go to France.
Against the next.
That was a joke too. I'm joking. Just kidding. Okay.
Blood libel and incapable of mourning our dead or being victims. It's a terrible situation that I will say one more time that if I wasn't raised by survivor grandparents.
What is ISIS then? Listen, you can say ISIS represents Islam if you want, but the number one killer of ISIS is other fucking Muslims. So careful.
And I wasn't told as a child, as a Jewish child, behold Dover door, like we said in Passover, every generation they arise to kill you. But I wasn't like understanding that this is unfortunately part of the Jewish story. I would be extremely depressed, and I might like commit.
Kill myself.
Not commit. I would convert. Convert. Like it's a terrible place to be. It's a very sad place to be. And I thank you for your allyship.
No, you don't have to thank me. It's literally y'all done so much stuff for me. Like, you literally saved my life. But I want to tell you, if I could just have a minute to tell a quick story about coming here. So I was having meetings in Boston before I left, and talking to Jewish groups and people like that is part of my job. Now, I don't get paid for it. It's just something I try to do. And I'm sitting there before I fly out here. I'm meeting with a bunch of Jewish groups, and all of them were telling me the same story, right? It's like, I'm afraid.
Number one killers of ISIS are not other Muslim Arabs, it's other Muslim minorities. That's why I said Muslims. I almost said Arabs, but I don't actually know if Arabs would have been correct there, so I said Muslims to be safe.
To speak up at work, I don't feel
Actually, I don't know I should know the answers. Kurdish people, they don't consider themselves Arabs, do they? Are Kurdish people Arabs? No, okay, yeah, they're their own ethnic group, right? Okay.
Stood within the party. I feel like my whole country is against me. Every American Jew is telling me a story over and over. So I'm flying here, and I start realizing all these things about just getting to Israel that I've never seen before. Like, filling out stuff for a deep background check on me. Going to, flying through Munich and having to walk all the way through the airport to this super isolated part and go through another security. So it's just like, it's Jews and woos. Jews and woos on the side of the airport.
In Germany, it's ridiculous. It's so
just to isolate. So I'm going through all this. So it's other. And then I get to the Sheraton here, and I look out the window. Like I open up the window and I look out at the beach. And it's just nothing but Jewish people out there on this beach.
I always love. Is this an American thing, or I love Americans? I'm gonna just assume this is an American thing. I always love the American moment where an American travels for the first time, especially white Americans, and they see a brown person, or they see a just like a person from another country, and they're like, it was so crazy. I went out and there was this group of people and I couldn't understand their language and they looked different than me. And I saw this father and mother look at their children, and I realized they love their children just like we love our children. And they were eating just like a normal family in America. And I didn't even stop for a second. And when they opened their mouths, their tongues were pink and red like mine, not brown like their skin would imply. And it was just one of the most touching moments. And it's like, yeah, we're all kind of, we're all human.
They're playing volleyball, going through a run, exercising. It's like, this is a time y'all can be together and really experience that. Like, it's really magical for me as a non-Jew to see just this joy that's there in the air.
Well, that's all we want to do is live in peace.
We were close to having a two-state solution a few decades ago, but Mahmoud Abbas microaggressed Benjamin Netanyahu on a Skype call. Any truth to this? No, it wasn't Skype because it was 2 decades ago. I don't remember what it was, but I think Abbas and Arafat were playing the Hail Hitler. I don't even know. I'm trying to think of it. I'm just fucking kill me.
That's all we want. Leave us alone. We have one country. One country.
And it's really small.
But this is not, Americans are not hearing this story. And there's got to, just something I have to say, there has to be a generational effort to educate millennials and Gen Z on this.
Yeah.
And respectfully to the Jewish organizations in the United States, I do not see a plan to tell people about this. I grew up in the 80s and 90s. You know, we saw the Second Intifada on television every single night. You know, there was just a baked-in report. I could watch Kylie Minogue videos in the 90s, and someone was starring.
They have all the memes.
Like, it was just part of the culture. That is gone.
Yeah.
That is 100% gone.
Wow.
And until there's a structural effort with millions of dollars put into it to push back on this forgive my language, but bullshit,
Yeah.
it's not going to get better.
She used the harsh language.
And where do you see your work going forward now? Are you trying to educate the moron progressives? I mean, what are you
Educate?
what are you doing with these people as part of your path?
I'm done. That's my last one. I'm so sorry. I can't. My bad.
Trying to, and this is something Cenk and I talk a lot about, is it's like we're not going to agree on Israel, but we can focus on other policy things that we do agree on. In my personal role, and doing everything I can in the Democratic Party to show the polling numbers we have and be like, look, here's our funders, here's our voters, here's the districts we have to win in.
See that Z person from On Fuck America reach out to you? Yeah, we've been chatting. I'm gonna bring her on.
Here's the percentage. Do you see this number going down? Do you see
And it's because of the Jewish vote?
The Jewish vote.
The Jews vote.
Jews
yeah.
really vote.
And 50% of the donations of the Democratic Party
They vote
are from
hard.
There is a very large contingent there.
Yeah.
So you see this line going down.
So it is happening.
Of course it is.
Nobody wanted to talk about this. You know this. After the election,
yes,
a lot of Jewish organizations kept saying, no, the numbers have remained the same in terms of Jews
It's
voting
not true.
Democrats.
It's not
They were
true.
lying to
Of course.
us. So you've seen...
Of course I have. I've seen... With my job, I see internal polling data, which is not always made public. Yeah, the truth is, if Trump had not been on the ballot, like, you would have seen even...
Why do, say, Arabs should have taken the 1947 unpartition plan, even though Jews were offered 56% of the and, even though they made up about 30% of the population and owned roughly 67% of the land? Wow. Deep, insightful question. Griffey. Why do we have to replay all the Israel-Palestine slop? The reason why they should have taken it is, if for no other reason, because one, they have way less now. Two, that division of the land is kind of a bullshit number. While it is true that partition plan, if you look at Resolution 181, that's what it's going to be. Most of the land was slop. Like, a lot of it is this Negev desert bullshit. Nobody gives a fuck about this. The coastal territory is nice, right? Your Tel Aviv, your Jaffa, whatever the fuck. Although, you know, you've got the Gaza Strip down here as well. So the Arabs did have that. Whew, I'm just going to say, if you're a Palestinian today and you're looking at this, you're like, damn. So this would have been, we would have had that, all of that, the entire West Bank, connecting land up to fucking Lebanon, this big ass chunk of the Gaza Strip, this whole border with, woo, you would have been up bigly. You would have been up bigly, okay?
higher defection rates.
I agree.
So, So, you know, this is a crisis for a party. It's got to be addressed.
Is there a leader that comes up? I mean, can we just talk a second about Josh Shapiro? How his house was firebombed
It's terrifying.
on Seder night, on Passover?
Because of this disinformation.
Yeah.
Because raw, evil anti-Semitism.
Of course.
It's always disinformation.
Wait, what was this?
Seder night on Shapiro,
I
how
supposed
his
to-
house
Thinking about that.
was firebombed
It's terrifying.
on Seder night, on
yeah.
Passover?
Because of this disinformation.
I feel like I just saw this dude's house and I was like, God damn. And I forgot the whole firebombing thing. But this guy's house is crazy. The fuck? The corruption.
Yeah.
Because raw, evil
At risk of
anti-Semitism.
sounding bigoted, are Palestinians allowed to see stuff like that? What do you mean by that? Or I don't understand the question.
Of course.
It's always disinformation, isn't it?
But this is just some random crazy person
So
that's
is
hearing
he
their
somebody
story.
that could bring out the Democratic
What about
Party?
Richie Torres?
I love it. Richie Torres to me is what the Democrats should be.
Richie Torres is wacky as fuck when it comes to anti-Semitic shit. That guy is a waxster. But we love him. Well, actually, I'm not going to actually say that. I don't know if we love him. The guy's kind of wacky.
Of course. But where's the institutional support for either of them? You know, I got a lot of heat for saying this. I believe, personally, the reason Shapiro was not our vice presidential nominee in this election was Kamala was scared.
Well, I heard that they didn't want a woman of color and a Jew.
I agree.
They wanted like a white guy to balance out the woman of color. That could have been it. But I do think there was something in Josh Shapiro's background that they didn't like.
I agree.
And I think actually they lost Pennsylvania because they didn't put him on the ballot.
Of course. I agree with that.
Wasn't it the governor's mansion, not his personal house? Oh, that would make a lot more sense if that's true. Is that the case?
Of course.
I think younger energy is what the Democratic Party needed more than anything. We put another old white guy on the ticket.
Oh, okay.
Which always happens, isn't it?
Yes.
Seems to be the story of my life, my political life. But, you know, before we wrap up the discussion, you, Brianna, run for Congress.
Yes.
Tell us a little bit about that.
So, yeah, it's something I wish more people would do.
The map/deal you presented and said, if you see this as a Palestinian today, are you saying that Palestinians aren't aware of the old map? Or what do you mean? The British proposed plan favored the European Jews heavily, and the Arabs were supposed to know to take that plan because it would get worse in the future. Destiny, what? No, dude, I don't want to get into all this right now, okay? Listen, can't we just have memes? What do you think the ideal solution to the conflict before? Also, is it more about the land or just genocide? The ideal solution before would have been for one side to just genocide the other side. That would have been... Because then there'd be nobody left to fight, baby. Yeah, that's right. I've struggled all the way back to my kick or keep take. All the way back there. There we are. There you go. There you have it. Somebody should have tried to win, and they didn't try hard. I'm just kidding. Video games.
You understand this. There's a really big difference in believing your politics and getting off the computer and going out there.
Yeah.
I don't know how many hands you've shaken.
Oh, my God.
Like tens of thousands.
And babies you've kissed.
You may not kiss the babies. But it really is so helpful for breaking down and making you understand, like, your conception of politics is not necessarily what people are thinking about.
100%. And just talking to real people who have real problems.
Yes.
And hearing them. And listening to them, which I think actually women have a real... I think women have more of an affinity for that, for listening, rather than just telling people what they should believe.
Yes.
And I'm a big advocate for more women in leadership positions, more women in politics. And we were talking earlier that women always also give themselves up for a higher cause, like we saw with Elise Stefanik recently, who, gave up her nomination to be the UN ambassador because the party needed her because there was a slim majority in the House. And the woman is just so classy, but she's the example to me of a woman saying, greater good, and that's what I'm for. And what we find a lot is partisan lines that have nothing to do with policy or good decision making.
That's right. Ooh. Just one thing on that. Something I've noticed since October 7th is been such, for me as a Democratic operative, the number of productive relationships I've made in the Republican Party with people that I can talk about Israel policy, and that's an off-ramp to talk about national security and other issues. It is an excellent test, because if a Republican is smart enough to understand that Israel matters, I can have a logical, fact-based policy discussion with them about all this stuff that's in the middle, not necessarily right or left. I really think this is the future for our country.
I pray we have a lot of internal divisions here in Israel as well.
Yeah.
We really do. And I always say it's the harder road to find consensus and unity.
They talk about that internal divisions in Israel. Again, it's always funny. I don't care at this point. But it's funny because people will say shit like Destiny went on an Israeli paid tour to do Hasbara or propaganda for him. But if you look at any of the Israelis that have ever talked to me or have talked about my trip to Israel, all of them say shit like, he didn't talk to any real Israelis. He just talked to all the peacenik, the lefty fucking losers, like all of the liberals and the, the pearl clutchers. And so that, a lot of Israelis don't like a lot of other lefty Israeli. Oh, and the lefty Israelis don't like the other Israelis. I shouldn't use the term lefty. There are obviously deep divisions in Israel over what the future of that country should look like, especially with regards to the Palestinian conflict. Which I would say, as a big liberal simp, is one of the pros of Israel. And something you will not find in an equivalent Arab country.
But it's the correct way.
That's right.
And we need that too, believe me. We need that too.
Desperately.
Honestly, ladies, I could talk all day about so many things, but we have to move on to our very favorite and very popular segment, Scumbag of the Week. Yes, We do not hold our punches here because there are so many scumbags every single week.
Scumbag
And so
of the
we give
week.
them, you know, this spotlight today, and we give awards at the end of the year.
We do.
So Rachel, let's start with you. Who is your
You're the scumbag of the week. Oh,
I'm
never mind.
going to toss to Shoshana to go first because mine will go.
Oh, are you connected?
Yes,
All right.
a little bit
We
connected.
schemed ahead of time.
All right, Shoshana, who's your scumbag of the week?
Well, I would like to say that I grew up in the days of the original Lollapalooza.
It's okay, Destiny. I would also take the $5 million travel to Israel. It was a good decision. Listen, $5 million, I think I would do. Oh, fuck. I'm trying to be good faith. I don't know if I would actually. I have so much money and I don't, my lifestyle wouldn't change. If I was offered $1 billion, I would say yes immediately. If I was offered $100 million, I would do it. Anything less than 10 million, I'd have to take a lot. That's my integrity, okay? Although that's under assault at the moment.
Palooza.
Guess
See,
What's
take
that?
about what you. It's
For Europeans.
Oh, so sorry.
my hit is
We do not hold our punches here
Oh, okay.
because there are
We're
so
back.
many scumbags, and we give award scumbag of the week.
I'm going to toss to Shoshana to go first because mine will go.
Oh, are you connected?
Yes,
All right.
a little bit
We
connected.
schemed ahead of time.
All right, Shoshana, who's your scumbag of the week?
Well, I would like to say that I grew up in the days of the original Lollapalooza.
guess
See,
What's
take
that?
about what you. It's
For Europeans.
Oh, so sorry. It is a music festival.
Yes.
The music festival where Nirvana and I don't even remember who I saw. I saw so many
Jam.
bands. Like back when.
Pearl Jam.
Very old.
Stone Temple Pilots.
Stone Temple Pilots, like the best bands ever, where they travel the country and we stay there for hours and.
You should at least share the money Israel gave you to go there with the chat, since we have to hear your Zionist talking points. You're unbelievably delusional if you think I got paid any fucking money by Israel to go and do that trip, but I'm flattered you think so.
We were on the fields. Like it wasn't like Woodstock, but it was Lollapalooza was the best, and people came from all over, and it was a real festival, and everyone enjoyed. And I don't know what's going on with you guys this generation, but this Coachella, what the hell? What happened to music?
What the
hell? What
hell?
happened to just enjoying yourself?
What's
what happened
going on,
to just
guys?
like, oh, I don't know, dancing and enjoying? Because now everything's political. And I will just say kneecap, you Irish, redacted. What the hell?
Ooh.
You're playing music, and then you have F Israel, Free Palestine, so that everyone who's out there has to hear your scumbaggery words, so that everyone out there has to either walk away from the festival that they paid money to get to, or sit there and hear your propaganda. You are not musicians, you are scumbags. This is not what a music festival is for. It is for enjoying, it is for peace, it is for coming together. And if you had said Israel-Palestine with some sort of, handshake or heart, I'd be okay with that. But F Israel, F you.
Wow.
I'm mad.
You're on fire.
I'm really mad.
Yes.
You should be mad.
If I
She's
would
on
pay money
fire.
to go to a concert,
Queen.
and I had that crap on the...
Wait. Melcha. Wait, is that...
Queen.
No, say it in... What? Wow, anti-Semitism. They don't have a voice for the...
Queen.
Fuck you.
I mean, that's why we don't go to, what's his name, that Roger Waters idiot anymore. My friends went to
still
Berlin
alive,
to
that guy?
to a concert. They were huge Pink Floyd fans years ago, before we knew he was
Malka.
really wacko
Nuts,
crazy.
yeah.
And he had on the screen...
Wait. Oh! Malaka. Doesn't that mean fucker in Greek or whatever? Oh, wait, what do I...
ملكة.
Melikatone.
ملكة.
Okay.
like pictures of dollar signs, Israeli
Okay.
flag and pigs.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
and they were in Berlin, surrounded by Germans with pictures of Jews.
Yes.
It's
Horrible.
It's bad.
It's just unacceptable, and especially after what happened at Nova.
Exactly.
To take a festival like that.
Yes, and not
Sorry,
and
yes, you're
mentioned.
good.
By the way, they mentioned. You're going to talk about Coachella, but they mentioned the victims of music festivals that had been killed.
What hooks are you using for the pegboard behind you? It's all it's a thing called Gallo Tech. I just use their system. Wait, what's this? Hold on.
And make them move and stop.
He's explaining to pirate software why he triggers people. Okay.
Okay, but
Stop. Okay.
You didn't mention Nova.
I know.
All right, Rachel.
Rachel.
And
Going to you.
Served.
So, all right, I caught it. First thing I've caught in my life. But my scumbag this week is the entirety of Coachella. And I want to go back to Eli Wiesel and what he said, that the opposite of love is not hate, it is indifference. There are so many people who could have stood up and said something
Look at my
or
beautiful
stopped
reprocessing.
it in the offing before it got to that stage. There is someone working AV who could have pulled that plug. There is somebody working lights who could have shut them off. There is somebody.
I think Putz is Yiddish, but I'm not sure. I don't think anybody actually speaks Yiddish. I think it was an old language. I don't know if that's what they spoke. Actually, I don't even know when they spoke Yiddish. Herzl at one point, because he wanted to take all the Jews and go back to Israel. And then it wasn't even Herzl, actually. It was some other dude. And he was like, we should all fucking learn Hebrew. That would be sick. It could be like our nation's language. And I think everybody said he was fucking retarded. He's like, we're from all these different countries. Like, there are better common languages. Nobody fucking speaks Hebrew anymore. It's like a dead language. It's retarded. And I don't know if he was a master debater or what, but then he was like, okay, fuck it, let's do it. And then somehow everybody got turned on to it. Like, speak Hebrew now. Kind of. If you remove all the anti-Palestinian genocidal apartheidal treatment, the story of Israel is actually a really cool story. But Jews spoke Yiddish in Central and Eastern Europe. Gotcha.
Who could have done something instead of everybody standing there and continuing to dance and cheer. Nobody along the line, nobody during any sound or light tests said a word. Nobody during the making of the lineup said anything. Ooh. That indifference is what is going to be the downfall of America. And if Nova had happened at Coachella, where there is an annual attendance of or a daily attendance of 125,000, that would have equaled 13,000 people slaughtered.
Damn.
The 364 people who were massacred at Nova, including my student, Roni Polvonov, 23 years old of Ramle. They might have been there dancing alongside you if they hadn't been slaughtered by terrorists who you don't have a thought about, but you will stand there and keep dancing and keep enjoying your freedom with Israel, free Palestine. And you know what?
Unbelievable.
I am so grateful that each and every one of you returned home safely and are able to hug your families again. Because I would never, ever
let you leave
wish
alive.
What happened to the people at Nova on
I thought she was
anyone
gonna
else.
be based.
But shame on you, you scumbags, for not caring about the 364 people who are angels now instead of dancing at a peace festival with you. You should have said something.
Oh, Rachel.
Damn.
Wow. It's really true. It's really
Queen Slay.
It's really true. And you know, I like that you say somebody could have pulled a plug, somebody could have done something. Because I feel like
somebody on the way,
we
in the
say,
supply
what could I
chain.
have done? Or who, you know what? Turn your back.
Yeah.
Turn your back. Tell people around you to turn their backs. Do something. I agree with you. Do something is really important.
But this is the problem, is there's the culture, and this will tie into my choice, but the culture has changed for young people, where there's so much social pressure to be anti-Israel, and yet through that anti-Jew. I just saw a poll that came out in the United States a few days ago showing that 50% of Jewish students feel the need to hide their Jewish identity on campus.
What?
Now, not to get too political here, but this
thank
is
God, don't get too political.
Where every single non-binary person needs to be celebrated all the time.
Yeah.
Yes.
You have fat positivity. You've got to accept that.
true, actually.
You've got to accept every religion. Trans people, women. Got to accept everyone, but Jews.
Not
Oh,
Jews.
that's too far. That's some crazy talk.
And to even bring it up is too controversial.
Right.
There are legislative bodies who are shying away from addressing anti-Semitism because, well, the war in Israel is just too... It has nothing to do with the war. Nobody's asking you for your geopolitical expertise. And besides, you don't have to have any. This is about your Jewish neighbors, but...
In the United States,
wait, why the fuck
we
aren't these
don't
connecting?
need people to solve the crisis in the Middle East.
Exactly.
We just need you to tell your damn Jewish neighbors that they matter to you.
Yes.
And that's it.
Yeah.
And we don't need to hear that you will hide us in your attics. We're never hiding again. We need you to stand with us. And when you see anti-Semitism on the right or on the left, say something. Call it out. Do something. Turn your back on it.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Absolutely.
I agree.
True and base.
Absolutely.
Can I say this? I don't want to get emotional, but what I see with the Jews I
about
talk
to get
to in the
emotional.
United States is it's like they've poured their hearts into this country. and they love America. They've tried so hard to participate, and they're standing there and just asking their country to love them back.
Yes.
And it just seems like people in America are completely oblivious to this. It's an open wound.
This is what people accused me of doing, okay? Fuck you guys. Fuck all of you, all right? People unironically, all right, are saying this is the type of shit I did. I hate all of you so much.
Yes,
And
but I think it's almost too much, Brianna. I think that a lot of Jews want a lot of validation, or they need this validation.
Sure.
And I'm getting to the point where it's like,
what's wrong with you?
I don't need anybody
Goy.
to validate my existence.
Exactly.
But I understand
Get
for
the
Jews
goy
who
slop
poured
out of here.
their energy to other social justice causes, how they feel so betrayed.
And remember, goys, okay, the true enemy is not the non-Jewish person, okay? It's the Jews that have turned their back on Israel and Judaism, and they beg these non-believers for acceptance, all right? Those are the true goys. Don't forget it.
But it's like enough of wanting to be loved. I think it's a weakness of ours, by the way.
Yes.
I agree and I disagree
love yourself.
with you. So I agree you need to, what I've seen with a lot of Jewish people is a belief that if you can just explain the history well enough, that people will come on board, and it's this high-level intellectual thing. That's not how you meet people.
No.
It's through stories. So I agree with you. You've got to be more confident there. What I've seen is a lot of Jewish people getting...
Do you have any inherent disagreement with this, or is it just a cringe trigger? Actually, no. I don't think I've actually disagreed with anything I've said so far. I'm just anti-jerking a little. If it sounds cringe, it does sound a little cringe, but I mean, it's the same as the fucking pro-Palestinian cuck sound. I mean, it's just as bad. It's just as bad. So, I mean, I would say theirs is worse, but so.
Being so drawn into their community post-October 7th and being afraid to trust people. And I know this is selfish for me to say and ask, but I think most non-Jews like myself, I don't think we bear you animosity. I think we're just ignorant. I think we don't know the history. We don't know what you're going through.
I agree. I think most people are ignorant. They're in the middle.
100%.
And it's like you said earlier about the Democratic Party, it's the extremists making the noise.
That's right.
And making it seem like there's more people.
And making it politically impossible to stand with Jews, which is their mission. So I understand it's asking for bravery, but don't just withdraw into yourselves.
It's very hard, though. Like, you have people like Candace Owens, and you have people like, what those idiots, Ian Carroll or Jack...
Posobiec?
Shields.
Jake Shields.
They're spreading so much. And so many conspiracy theories. Like, it's impossible to keep up. Like, Jews just feel like, okay, how am I going... Like, I do appreciate what you're saying about educate. But right now, the educational boards, they don't want to hear from us.
Well, that's part of the infiltration.
They've taken
That's what I'm saying.
That's part of the infiltration. Okay. Brianna.
Yes.
Very important moment. Who was your scumbag of the week?
My scumbag of the week is Hassan Piker. Love you, Hassan. This is Jake Fever's nephew.
Never mind. It's not cringe. It's based.
By the way, which is always awkward when I go after him. But Hassan is a garbage human being who's gone after my interracial marriage.
Damn.
He's gone after my interracial marriage.
Oh, he did say weird shit about that, didn't he?
He basically said on stream that I took my husband's last name so I could pretend to be Asian.
Kind of weird.
And to get clout in progressive world. It's
Kinda
like,
weird.
Hassan, I married my husband because I loved him.
Ooh.
I know it's hard to understand.
Oh my God.
So you're talking about Coachella.
But who is he?
Hassan is...
Oh, no. He got the ultimate... Who?
When you're thinking about this Gen Z problem of...
Hassan Piker is the Gen Z problem.
Political project being synonymous.
She's putting a target on his back.
Takeover.
Right to the Mossad directly. Oh, no.
In the entire world. He goes out there, this takeover, he is the biggest Twitch streamer in the entire world.
That's
he goes
Asmongold,
out there
actually.
for tons of hours a day and does nothing but spread disinformation about this and fringe anti-American talking points.
Wow.
He said disgusting things, basically being in favor of the terrorist attacks on 9/11.
Oh, gosh.
He works with people like Frogan, who said they are thrilled when
I don't think they know who
Israeli
Frogan is,
soldiers get PTSD and American soldiers get PTSD. And he's on stage with Coachella. So he says,
part of that problem.
Yes, he's part of this problem because he's out there making anti-Semitism look sexy to these young kids, and they just don't have another view. So, Hassan, you are an absolute scumbag. Nothing you say is true. The level of fact-checking you are willing to do before you do your show is so shockingly bad. You don't do on-the-ground journalism. You're just a piece of garbage. And, Coachella could do so much better than you.
And I have to say, anybody who has seen a picture of your husband understands exactly why you married him. He brings me so much joy and all.
He's an adorable guy.
Yes.
Boom roasted.
Why do you smile through the screen?
I don't understand.
sorry.
Because
you're contradicting him with facts.
It's this progressive mindset.
Right.
If you have an Asian last name, why would you have taken that? There's got to be some identity politic thing behind
Maybe
it.
we should ask Whoopi Goldberg why she has a Jewish second
There
name.
we go.
There you
Yes.
go.
Yes.
All right, so my scumbag of the week is a guy called Mossem Badawi.
What?
Right? He is the latest
Who's this guy?
of the pro-Hamas student activists who've been arrested. And
God, can I say I'm so glad? I think even you guys were simps for this guy. Who was the Arab dude that kind of looked like fucking Robin Williams, who was like the new Palestinian pro-Pali talking head for a while? God, that guy was insufferable. I feel like I don't see him as much anymore. The Egyptian guy? Yeah, Bassem. Is it Bassem Youssef? Was that his name? Yeah, God, fuck. Oh, God.
put in some prison in Vermont, right? I mean, he's there somewhere. But the point is that this guy is a 34-year-old undergraduate who has been in college for 17 years and still never got a degree. So either he's really dumb or he's in fact a plant of the Islamists trying to get him to
Why don't we have a scumbag of the week segment for anything else? True.
do what he's been doing for 17 years, and that is sowing the seeds of pro-Islamist hatred in college campuses. He's been on many college campuses, 17 years. He could have gotten 4 PhDs by now, but no, he still doesn't have an undergraduate because he's a professional
student,
agitator,
loser,
anti-Semite who fabricated
loser,
an entire background
loser
of his brother dying and his mother dying in Palestine.
Yikes.
In
Major
Judea,
cringe, bro.
Which never happened. And how do we know it never happened? Because one of the friends of the show, David Collier, who has become a little bit of a Cluedo in discovering anti-Semites. David Collier is the researcher.
Yeah, I normally only watch the YouTube vids. Yesterday was first time on stream. Who the fuck are those people arguing about chlamydia? How did they end up on the stream? Go back 2 years ago, okay? This place used to be, we used to do a much wider variety of content, okay?
Researcher who discovered that the BBC documentary about this little boy in Gaza was all a lie, and the little boy in Gaza was the son of a Hamas minister.
Wow.
And the BBC had paid the family. Huge controversy.
Wow.
But David doesn't rest on his laurels, and he tried to figure out who this guy Mossem was, who's been arrested, and of course all of the progressive politicians in America standing behind him, don't deport him, freedom of speech, about a guy who spent 17 years infiltrated into college campuses with a fake story about his very difficult background in Palestine under Israeli oppression. All of it are lies. His uncles, his family are Palestinian Islamic Jihad terrorists. And this guy, for some reason, has been in America on a green card, fully funded.
What?
As an undergraduate. For 17 years, the perpetual student.
That's crazy.
So I want to say he's a huge scumbag, but the people protecting him
are even worse.
And the people who are keeping him there, some of them your compatriots from Vermont, I'm afraid, the most progressive state in America. You guys are harboring a terrorist and a terrorist supporter.
I kind of want to watch Louis Theroux's new doc on Israel-Palestine, but the clips look heavily anti-Israel. I just love Louis. They're pretty, it takes the pro-Palestinian, anti-Israeli position, but settlers are unhinged. Like, they make themselves look that bad. You don't have to do much work. So, I mean, like, it definitely has a position, but I mean, I don't think it was, I don't think he said anything that was, like, not truthful. I don't think it was super incorrect anywhere or anything, but.
And a terrorist spokesperson who nobody, including the immigration in America, bothered to do any due diligence about his story or about what he's doing as an undergraduate for 17 years. You've got to do better, people, because this is the downfall of your country, not ours. We're okay over here. We'll defend ourselves.
Well,
you got a problem. Scumbag of the week, Mossem Madawi, if that's how you pronounce the name. Okay.
Can I say something about that?
Yes.
So this is, I think it's a real failure of the Democratic Party that we've not taken, like, rooting out this hardcore Islamism.
Check out the bingo card for the debate?
In our immigration policy. The Democrats lost this last election, and Trump is in office on immigration. That's a large issue.
Yeah.
And most of it is what's happening on our southern border. But I think there's a fine line. Like, someone in the United States that is, like, we had one researcher that was just criticizing Israel. I don't agree with her, but that is her First Amendment right.
Yeah.
I don't support people like her being deported, but there are bad actors that are here trying to turn our country against each other.
Absolutely.
It is in our national security interest to take this seriously, to build a structure so they don't come to the United States in the first place. And the Republicans are winning support with Jews because they are able to see this danger and, in my view, over-respond, but they're not ignoring it, which is what the Democrats have
Brianna,
done.
Chuck Schumer said to Colombia, don't do anything about anti-Semitism. He's a Jew.
I know.
And he said, don't bother. It's only the Republicans who care. Come on.
No.
You've got the other guy in Columbia University. This guy is not just talking about Israel. He's anti-American.
Yes.
This is what you have. Because it starts with the Jews, but it never finishes with the Jews.
That's right.
And this is why you have a problem.
17 years of college tuition, by the way. Someone's funding that.
Somebody's
That's
funding
expensive.
him. He's got a slew of lawyers, as the other guy does, as the other guy from Colombia. Whatever. You know what? Thank God somebody's waking up.
Yes.
They're doing something about it. I'm all in favor. And all of those you Jews anti-deportation, keep your mouth shut. You're not helping. All right? Now, we like to end our show on positive vibes. And I know we've been talking positive vibes, so we always have heroes of the week. So, ladies, would you like to start this time? Rachel's hero of the week?
Sure, I'd be happy to. And my hero
Oh, we
of
have
the
a
week
hero
is,
of the
I
week.
think,
Aw.
probably everyone's hero of the week in some way. Every week, it's Douglas Murray. Yes.
Oh, no.
Why is he hero this week?
Well, he's hero this week because for 3 hours, he exercised that brilliant Douglas Murray patience on Joe Rogan's podcast against Dave Smith, a stand-up comic who has somehow become an authority on the Middle East.
Yeah. That is
and
cringe. True.
Absolutely eviscerated every single point that he made. But again, very calmly, no yelling, just the facts.
Just the
And
facts.
he brings up excellent points. Like, are we really waiting for an atrocity to happen to Jews in America? Because they keep bringing up, the people who oppose us, keep bringing up the fact that nothing really bad is happening. Nothing is going to be that bad. It's not Nazi Germany. There's no gas chambers. Are we waiting for that? He brings that up so articulately.
Wow.
And in
So
addition, I also just want to congratulate him because his book on democracies and death cults, which everybody should read, is climbing every single chart, and he will eventually surpass some of the most popular children's books and make it to #1. I believe that.
First of all, I applaud the choice, but I think what Douglas Murray has done in the last week is something that almost nobody dared to say until now.
He dared to defend Israel.
Opened up the entire conversation on these people who are not experts.
That's right.
Talking as if they were, but at the same time using the fact that they're not experts as a defense to being criticized. And this is something Joe Rogan is almost untouchable. You know, everybody says, oh, he had Trump on his show, he had Elon Musk on his show, and oh, he's amazing. Nobody said anything about Joe Rogan because he's just a regular guy bringing.
There were some factual errors in the Settlers program that British historian Simone Schama called out. It is a principle of presenting programs like this to have done at least a modicum of research on the subject. In this case, the long history of Jews in Hebron, the 29 massacre, etc., do not mislead an audience to suppose they suddenly arrived in 1968. I too am no defender of someone who displays incredible ignorance or will of Jewish community unbroken over centuries.
A place.
Oh, did he not mention that?
Hebron is an ancient biblical city, home to some 200,000 Palestinians. A place holy to 3 major religions.
Hi, how are you?
Where are you guys from?
We're from British TV crew.
In 1968, the year after it was occupied by Israel, a community of Jewish settlers moved in illegally. They now number around 700, existing in a cordon of military protection.
Oh. Yeah, that is pretty misleading. Yeah, there have been Jews around for a long time. I thought that didn't some stay after the massacre in 29? I know that they were Arabs that protected some of them because the other Arabs were killing a lot of them after there was a big massacre. I say big, but for some reason you guys go small in the Middle East for everything. Your like huge massacres are like 60 people killed, or at least in this region, like specifically like Israel and the West Bank and all that. I don't know how many got killed. 67. I guess all the Jewish people probably would have left after this, even if some made it out. Yeah, rip. Almost all were evacuated. Yeah, okay. From 36 to 39. Rip.
Issa Amro, a Palestinian activist, was born here in the settler-occupied area.
You got fences all around?
All around. Fences from here?
Yeah.
Yeah, the problem is every time you present any of this, it just depends on how far back you want to go, because you can keep going further back and further back and further back, and depending on where you start, you can kind of write whatever narrative you want. He's like, Louis not strictly wrong on this, but that's always how Israel-Palestine goes. You're not like strictly wrong on a thing, you just present something and, yeah, I don't know. Wait. After.
People on. But Douglas Murray called him out and has opened a conversation, because then he went on Bill Maher, which I saw yesterday. He opened a conversation about exactly this. Non-experts pretending to be experts, and then when they get attacked, saying, well, I'm no expert. And just for that, he deserves it, because he's opened a conversation that needed to be opened.
Well, you know what the classic definition of chutzpah is, right?
What?
Chutzpah is...
Come. I don't know. I'm sorry.
The Yiddish term for like gall, right? For having a lot of gall.
Audacity.
Audacity. And the classic definition is a guy who murders his parents and then goes to the court and says, please have mercy, I'm an orphan. Right, which is exactly what these schmucks are doing.
Yes.
Well, they spew all this stuff. But
what do I know?
I don't really know.
Yep.
And he says, but you've been talking about this for a year and a half.
Yeah,
You
like
never
getting
went
rich
there.
off of it.
You never get it. Yes. Who the hell was this guy? Wasn't even a funny comedian. He made you look like a real idiot, Dave Smith, if you're watching. But yes, Douglas is a hero. Thank you very much. Shoshana.
My hero of this week is someone I really love coming across on Twitter. He's called the Misfit Patriot. I've never heard of him except like when I scroll and I read his posts are so funny. Like, I like a good, well-placed curse. Like, I feel like cursing is like, first of all, it keeps me from committing homicide. Second of all, it's just cathartic. I didn't realize
therapy.
You need it, okay?
Therapy.
So this guy is like, he's not Jewish, but he defends Jews and he calls out idiots, which is my favorite part. So somebody just happened to pick one. Someone called Maze Love is all kvetchy, okay, whining about the fact that the U.S. Jewish population is 2%, while Christians make up 63%. Easter's a cornerstone of Christian tradition, but the White House decides to send its warmest wishes to those celebrating Passover and ignore Easter's significance for Americans. Next year, Happy Easter may be deemed
Unironically, didn't Doug provide some of the weakest arguments possible? I feel like you're doing a better job. Wait, Doug, for what? Or wait, what are we talking about?
Semitic. Who knows? Wake up.
I'm reading like 4 different things right now.
People, right? This is what this schmuck is tweeting.
Oh, Douglas Murray. I've heard him referred to as Murray, and I think I've seen Douglas Murray. I don't think I've ever seen him called Doug, but okay.
And so, Misfit Patriot, I'm going to quote this. Perspective does matter. There were 9 posts about Easter and 1
This guy is Russian 100%.
about Passover, and your retarded ass, got triggered. I'm just quoting. Thanks for the stats on Jews, though. It makes you effing people look even more silly that 2% of the U.S. population is somehow controlling everything. What a joke. He's just like, calls it out with like the most flat out. I'm just like, oh, that's what I need. Like, I don't need your intellectual
sanity.
Just tell people the way it is.
Sanity.
Anyway, Mr. Patriot, thank you very much. You make my day. It's nice in the cesspool that is X now to see your voice. Thank you.
That's great.
Yeah.
I have to
I'm
Thank
from
you,
Mississippi,
King.
So
You appreciate that?
I appreciate it a lot.
I second follow Misfit Patriot.
Yes, absolutely. Brianna.
So my hero of the week is the antithesis of Hassan Piker. It is Ethan Klein.
No fucking shot. I don't care. Every day I don't care. I'm playing Factorio. I'm just playing Factorio. I don't even care. Breaking, the Trump admin confirmed. Sorry, I was referring to the story, not whatever she just said. The Trump administration confirms it has reached a settlement in principle with the family of Ashley Babbitt, the January 6th rioter who was shot and killed by a Capitol Police officer while trying to enter the House chamber. The terms of the settlement are not yet public. DOJ and lawyers for Babbitt family say they have not signed the agreement but are working to get it on paper and signed within the next few weeks. Seriously? Why do they joke about saying they control things when they do actually own a majority of American media? Isn't that an important factor? No, because diaspora Jews are not Zionist Jews. These are very different types of people. They do not represent the same interests.
Follow Misfit Patriot.
Yes, absolutely. Brianna.
So my hero of the week is the antithesis of Hassan Piker. It is Ethan Klein.
Relevant Israel-Palestinian history should start at 1890 for both sides. No, Palestinians have Jews coming in from Europe and Jews are leaving Europe because of anti-Semitism. No, fuck no. Jews aren't going to say, they're not going to agree to 1880, 1890. They're going to say Jewish history starts back in the Roman Empire era or whatever, right? When they had the whole kingdom of Israel. If you grant that the history starts at 1890, then the Jews are almost certainly completely and totally and utterly in the wrong in so many different ways. Well, maybe not necessarily, but the argument becomes a lot different. Yeah.
My hero of the week is the antithesis of Hassan Piker. It is Ethan Klein.
Ooh,
so if you're not familiar, Ethan Klein runs one of the most successful online media organizations in the United States. He's Jewish. You know, his wife served in the IDF when she was here. And he's just run this extremely successful YouTube podcasting operation for years. He's worked with some of the biggest people like Hassan Piker. So after October 7th, he was working with Hassan Piker, and they had a falling out. And he's been very, very consistent. He's been critical of your government, but at the same time, he has really drawn a line in the sand and talked about this anti-Semitism that is very open in the progressive movement and with Hassan. Today, as I was checking Twitter, he had, by these degenerates that have been targeting him for a while, they mailed 2 human skulls to his house. And as I understand it, the FBI is now looking into this. This is someone.
The lady's like, those aren't humans, those are Palestinian. I'm just kidding. Video games, just kidding.
A Jew that's been targeted by this anti-Semitic project at the highest levels and has gotten an insane amount of harassment. You can see videos of him just out there with his wife, 2 Jews, and people coming up to him on the street in his car, harassing him.
She's like,
He's
that's crazy,
nothing but integrity.
Amazing.
There was a video that came out just a couple of days ago by iDubbbz going after him, who's another streamer. And again, siding with this Hassan clique because that's the popular thing to do. Integrity is in such short order in the United States in media, and Ethan Klein has shown this repeatedly. And I think it takes some guts. So, Ethan, you're my hero of the week.
Oh, that's wonderful. I think I heard his name, but I don't think we were so aware of him here.
He's really big.
All right. Ethan Klein, thank you very much. Maybe you could come on our show very soon. Okay, so my heroes of the week may be very unlikely to a lot of people who seem to really hate them.
Wait, I can't request of any quality things that are okay, whatever.
But they did something brave last week.
What did they do?
Harry and Meghan. Yes, Harry and Meghan.
What'd they do?
The whole world seems to hate them every time she does a thing on.
Wait. Hold on, I get one more. I haven't done this in a long time. I get one of these. Wait. Wait, do you remember the paralegal girl in Suits? I think like sisters. She's in Suits and is married to Prince Harry, yes. Oh. Wait, is this like a troll? You all tell me same person because... Oh. Okay. I knew that. I knew that the whole time, actually.
Meghan, who the whole world seems to hate them every time she does a thing on Netflix. Oh, she's not really cooking. Oh, she doesn't really do that for herself. Oh, she's so not self-aware. You know what? I don't care about all that. All I care about is that last week they decided that their foundation that was supporting an organization called Muslim Women's Coalition from Milwaukee, and the head of this organization was basically maligning Israel constantly and saying we're an apartheid state. And they were getting like $30,000 from them, a huge amount of money. But they decided to cut out that support. And I think that for people who are constantly being attacked for trying to be woke or this or that, I think that's a pretty brave thing to do. And so love them or hate them, I think that this week we can really give them credit for really standing for some principles, drawing that line in the sand and saying, no, 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 we're not going to fund anybody that berates Israel in this manner as these people that were recipients of their money. So Harry and Meghan, sending a little bit of love your way. You're my heroes of the week.
Very nice.
And ladies, it's been such a joy. Such an incredible discussion. Brianna, you can come back anytime you want on the show.
So much fun.
I don't think this will be my only Israel
trip.
Well,
Hassan said the Houthis are in a morally and even legally defensible position. Is there any possible stim in for this? Stop asking me to stim in retarded points. I don't do that anymore, okay? Fuck you guys. The amount of retards that exist on the MAGA side and on the whatever the fuck side Hassan is on makes me believe nowadays that, like, when I steelman for these people, like, these people legitimately cannot come up with correct arguments on their own. And I think that when I steelman for them, I think that my arguments end up getting hijacked by them. So fuck that.
Hope that you come lots and that you always come back to visit us on the show and that you have a meaningful week. I'm sure you will.
We're doing a huge media project to kind of tell this story and to solve some of the problems we're talking about here. So hopefully we can get you in for an interview.
God bless you and God bless you for being here.
Of course.
Thank you all for watching.